He left for her. When he came back, I was already happy. My name is Mia, and this is the story of the best thing that ever happened to me, disguised as the worst. Part 1. The life I thought was perfect. I was 26 when Daniel and I moved in together. We had been dating for 3 years by then, and everything looked exactly the way I had always imagined it would. A small apartment with big windows, a cat named Biscuit, Sunday mornings with coffee and no alarm clocks. Daniel was charming, the kind of man who remembers your coffee order and opens car doors not because someone told him to, but because it was just who he was. Or at least, who I thought he was. We never fought about big things. Our arguments were small and forgettable. Who left the dishes in the sink? Whose turn it was to call the landlord about the broken heater? Normal stuff. Comfortable stuff. Looking back now, I think that was actually the problem. We were so comfortable that we stopped really seeing each other. We became roommates who kissed goodbye in the morning. We became a routine. But I didn't see it then. I was too busy being grateful for the stability. I had a job I liked, graphic designer at a small agency downtown. I had a group of close girlfriends. I had a life that, from the outside, looked full. And Daniel? Daniel had started working late. Part 2. The signs I chose to ignore. It started small, the way these things always do. He would come home after 10, sometimes 11 at night. He would say it was a project, a deadline, a client who kept changing their mind. I believed him, because I wanted to believe him, because the alternative was a thought too heavy to carry. Then came the phone. He started taking it everywhere. To the bathroom, to the balcony when he went to get some air. He would angle the screen away from me when he was typing, almost like a reflex, like he didn't even realize he was doing it. One evening, I walked into the kitchen and he was laughing at something on his phone. Really laughing, the kind of laugh I hadn't heard from him in months. When he noticed me, the laugh stopped. He locked the screen. "What's so funny?" I asked. "Just a meme. Nothing special," he said, and put the phone face down on the counter. I nodded. I made my tea. I went back to the couch. But something stayed with me that night. A small, cold feeling in my chest. Not quite suspicion, more like a warning I wasn't ready to hear. I pushed it down. I got good at that. Part 3. The night everything changed. It was a Thursday in November. I remember because it was raining and I had stayed home from work with a headache. I was lying on the couch with a blanket when Daniel came home earlier than usual, around 6, which hadn't happened in months. He walked in, saw me, and something crossed his face. Something I couldn't name right away. He sat down at the kitchen table. He didn't take off his coat. "Mia," he said, "we need to talk." Those 4 words, you never really understand what they mean until someone says them to you like that, quietly, without looking at you. "Okay," I said. I sat up. I pulled the blanket tighter around myself like it could protect me from whatever was coming. "I've been seeing someone," he said. The room didn't spin. There was no dramatic moment of collapse. I just sat there, very still, and felt something inside me go completely silent. "For how long?" I asked. 7 months. 7 months. I did the math without meaning to. 7 months ago it was April. We had spent Easter at my parents' house. We had held hands at the dinner table. "Who is she?" I asked. "You don't know her. She works in my building." I nodded slowly, like I was processing a work email, like this was normal information. "Are you in love with her?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, and that silence was the loudest thing I had ever heard. "I think so," he finally said. I stood up. I walked to the bedroom. I closed the door behind me and sat on the edge of the bed in the dark for a very long time. Part 4. The Months That Broke Me and Built Me. He moved out within 2 weeks. He was decent about it, if you can call it that. He took only his things. He didn't fight over anything. He left like a man who knew he had no right to ask for anything. And I was alone. The first month was the hardest thing I have ever lived through. Not because I was crying every day, though I was, but because the silence in that apartment was unbearable. Biscuit would sit by the front door some evenings, waiting for Daniel to come home, and I would have to look away. My friends rallied around me the way good friends do. They brought food, they slept over, they let me talk in circles about the same things over and over without telling me to move on. My friend Rachel said something that stayed with me. "Right now, it feels like the pain is the whole story," she told me one night. "But it's only the first chapter." I didn't believe her, but I wrote it down anyway. The second month, I started going to therapy. My therapist was a calm woman named Dr. Owens, who had a plant on her windowsill that was somehow always in bloom. She never told me what to feel. She just asked questions I didn't know I needed to answer. "Who were you before Daniel?" she asked me in our third session. I opened my mouth and realized I didn't know. That scared me more than the breakup had. Part 5. Learning to be Mia again. I started small. I signed up for a pottery class, something I had wanted to do for years but never made time for. I was terrible at it. My first bowl looked like a sad, lopsided hat. My teacher, an older man named George who had been teaching pottery for 30 years, looked at it and said, "Beautiful start. Ugly bowl." And then he laughed and I laughed, and it was the first real laugh I had in months. I started cooking again. Not just heating things up, but actually cooking. I would put on a playlist on Friday nights and make something complicated just for myself. Pasta from scratch, Moroccan chicken, a lemon tart that took 3 hours and was absolutely worth it. I started waking up early and walking before work. Just 30 minutes through the neighborhood, coffee in hand, no headphones. Just me and the morning. These things sound small, and they were small, but they added up. 6 months after Daniel left, I looked in the mirror one morning and barely recognized myself. Not because I looked different, though I did. My eyes were clearer, my posture was straighter, but because I looked like someone who was okay. Actually okay. Not performing okay, not pretending, just okay. Part 6. The Life I Built. A year after Daniel moved out, my life looked nothing like it had before. And I mean that in the best possible way. I had been promoted at work, not because I had worked harder to distract myself, though maybe that helped at first, but because I had started trusting my instincts more. I stopped second-guessing my ideas in meetings. I stopped making myself smaller to avoid taking up space. I had traveled alone for the first time, just a long weekend in Lisbon. I had sat at a restaurant by myself with a glass of wine and a book and felt, genuinely felt that there was nowhere else I would rather be. I had started a small side project, designing prints and selling them online. It made almost no money at first. I didn't care. It was mine. And I had met someone. His name was James. We had met at, of all places, the pottery class. He was even worse at it than I was. His first bowl looked like something that had survived a natural disaster. George had stared at it for a long time and then said nothing at all, which was somehow funnier. James made me laugh. Not the polite, comfortable laugh I had gotten used to with Daniel, but the real kind. The kind that sneaks up on you. We weren't rushing anything. We were just two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. And after everything I had been through, that felt like more than enough. Part 7. The Phone Call. It was a Sunday morning in October, almost exactly 1 year after Daniel had moved out. I was in my kitchen making coffee when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't pick up. "Mia," said the voice. "It's Daniel." I leaned against the counter. Biscuit jumped up beside me and I stroked his head without thinking. "Hi," I said. There was a long pause. "How are you?" he asked. "I'm good," I said, and I meant it. Another pause. "I've been thinking about you," he said. "I wanted to say that I'm sorry, really sorry, for everything, for the way it happened, for the time I wasted." "I know," I said. "I believe you." "I'm not with her anymore," he said. "It didn't work out." I waited. I could feel where the conversation was trying to go. "I miss you, Mia," he said. "I miss what we had. I've been thinking, and I think I made the biggest mistake of my life." I looked out the kitchen window. The morning light was coming in at an angle, soft and golden. Biscuit was purring. My coffee was getting warm. "Daniel," I said quietly, "I'm really glad you're doing okay. And I genuinely wish you well. I mean that." "But," he said. "But I'm happy," I said. "I'm genuinely, completely happy. And I wasn't before. Not really. I just didn't know it yet." He was quiet for a moment. "You sound different," he said. "I am different," I said. We said goodbye, politely, without anger, and I hung up and stood in my kitchen for a moment, just breathing. Then I poured my coffee, sat by the window, and watched the morning. Part 8. What I want you to take from this. If you are in the middle of your storm right now, I want you to hear this. The pain you are feeling is real. The grief is real. You are allowed to fall apart for a while. You are allowed to be angry and sad and confused all at once. But here is what I know now that I didn't know then. The person who walks out on you is not taking your life with them. They are only taking their part of it. Everything that is truly yours, your strength, your joy, your capacity to love, your ability to build something beautiful out of nothing, that stays. It waits. It grows, actually, in the space they leave behind. I spent 3 years making myself smaller in a relationship I called comfortable, when what I really meant was safe. Safe from the risk of being fully myself. When Daniel left, he accidentally gave me the greatest gift of my life. He gave me back to myself. And I will never, ever give that away again. My name is Mia, and this is the story of the best thing that ever happened to me, disguised as the worst. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're going through something similar right now, leave a comment below. You are not alone.